Hello, I'm Mark Simpson, founder of Resilient Changing, and this short video aims to provide you an introduction to resilience and our approach to helping individuals and organisations build collective resilience. I'm just going to share my screen and run through a few topics. First of all, just a brief intro on me. I've spent the last 15 years working in a consulting environment and even longer working together, helping teams and organisations navigate change, working as a facilitator, a coach. And more recently, I've really been focusing on the topic of resilience and how that can help both individuals and teams. And I've worked with a number of models, and I'm going to talk you through one from the Resilience Centre this afternoon, which forms part of the cornerstone to my approach to helping develop resilience. I'm going to cover three topics. So what is resilience? It's a term used a lot, but not necessarily fully understood. The aspects of individual resilience, so what are the components of resilience and what can help support that, and then our approach to developing resilience. I guess it's an understatement to say in the current environment, things really are volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous, a term coined by the US military in the early 90s. But there really are a lot of pressures at both a corporate and an individual level. In a lot of ways, it can feel like this guy here, overloaded by a range of burdens. And I guess this list on the left was almost COVID, so lots of things that can be roughly translated to do more and change more faster and better than you've ever done it. And then COVID came along, so the employees, we putting it bluntly, just got to keep it all together. We've got to cope with COVID, we've got to be at home working, and very different from working from home. So a lot of pressures. For leaders, it's not just doing all of this as an individual, but also keeping it all together and supporting their teams, leading remote teams and leading in different ways. And again, lots of things that can put stresses on individuals, on teams, on systems. So let's jump in and introduce resilience. First of all, a definition of an individual in terms of resilience, and it really is straightforward from the Resilience Centre. So the capacity to adapt in a positive way to whatever life brings, and be that a challenge, be that a difficulty, be that a setback. If we take this into a work setting, then it's described as the ability to remain task focused and productive, and to connect to the organisation's mission whilst experiencing tough times. So first of all, the things I like about this is the ability to remain on task, the ability to remain productive despite challenges. Yeah, and it describes the necessary inner strength and resourcefulness. And we'll touch upon some of these aspects when we introduce the resilience core. But first of all, I'd just like to debunk a few myths. I see these occurring on a very regular basis in terms of, okay, what is it? So resilience is this thing that is a capability, it's a set of skills, it's something innate that we have. It isn't, it's a capacity, it rises and falls. The fact that you're either born resilient or you're not, and again, that's not true, so you can manage your own resilience capacity. Studies, including the Danish twin study that looked at around 3,000 twin pairs, found that it was more environmental than genetic. And resilience is often seen as just being able to bounce back from adversity, but it isn't, and we'll demonstrate how it's both reactive, but you can also be proactive in terms of how you manage your state. And the belief that people that are resilient are just superhuman, that's not true either. So resilient people have knocks, they have setbacks, but they're very good at rolling with them. A few other things that are important to know. So resilience is not linked to your gender. It's not linked to your intelligence in terms of being measured by your IQ. It's not linked to your socioeconomic class. In fact, the only factor that has any influence is age. So as we get older, our capacity for resilience increases. Now, I really like and use the model from the Resilience Centre called the Resilience Core, and it comprises of 5 elements. First of all, our purpose. So do we have a sense of meaning? You know, is there a reason to get up? Is there something that drives us, this inner energy? Secondly, perseverance. So do we have the determination that we can keep going even in the face of some form of adversity or difficulty? The next piece is around equanimity or balance. So are we living with balance, and do we have some harmony? So can we choose our responses to challenges that we may face? And then moving around in clockwise direction, authenticity. So are we able to live in a way that's true to our values, to our beliefs, and accepting ourselves in terms of who we are and who we really want to be? And then last and not least is around self-reliance. This isn't to be confused with doing everything ourselves, but it's actually around our ability to access the resources, the skills, the strengths that we need to help us get to whatever goals we want to achieve. Very briefly on the model, it's based upon over 25 years of research by Dr. Gail Wignold, the founder of the Resilience Centre. And again, from a scientific point of view, and for the people that are interested in this, it is both, as a model, has content validity. So again, do the items in the tool capture the depth and breadth of resilience? And yes, it does, is the answer. So a mixture of qualitative research, so hundreds of interviews were used. And then does it have the construct validity? So does the tool actually measure what we think resilience is? And if it does, do they reflect, for example, our educated guesses? So for instance, if you have high resilience, you should have low depression. And again, this relationship has been proven in our research using these resilience tools. And again, if you are have a high resilience capacity, then you should have a higher life satisfaction, greater optimism, higher stress management capabilities, better physical health, higher morale. And again, that's been proven. We've also got some normative data. So the tool has been used extensively over the last 25 years. In fact, we've got data from 3 million people in over 150 countries. So again, we've got a really solid scientific base for this. Now, moving on from the science, a few practical examples. So again, what we know is that resilient people live longer. The power of purpose in this. So people with a purpose generally live longer. So a Canadian study followed 6,000 people for 14 years and found that those people that could clearly articulate a sense of purpose had a 15% lower risk of dying. A further study by Robert Butler for the National Institute of Aging found that people who could articulate their sense of purpose were living up to 7 years longer. So again, purpose really making a difference. The next piece we know is that resilient people are successful. Why? Because they have the power of perseverance. And again, a study from Duckworth and Seligman in 2006 found that there was a much higher correlation between self-discipline and achievement. And in fact, it was twice as large as the correlation between IQ and achievement. There have been a number of other studies. So for example, West Point, the US Military Academy, they found a stronger link between grit and determination, and it was more important than intelligence in terms of people that would successfully pass out. We also know that resilient people are much better in responding to stress, so their ability to bounce back. And in doing so, this ability to accept where they are, to think clearly and practically and look at what they can control rather than get caught in what Stephen Covey calls the outer ring of concern. These people tend to be much better in terms of solving problems. They're more resourceful under stress than people that are less resilient. And again, this was a further study from Barbara Fredrickson. We also know from our research that resilient people feel much better and less depressed than people with lower levels of resilience. In fact, when we look at highly resilient people, only 6% reported symptoms of depression versus 24% of those people with low resilience. What we also know is that resilient people are also more satisfied with life. So they find the adversities actually made them grow. So we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. We're seeing more and more about what we call post-traumatic stress growth. And part of that is around the resilience that people show. And why is this? Well, resilient people are not over-personalizing it. They don't believe that they're a victim. They're able to accept where they are, take some action and move on. And they're very good at looking after themselves. And again, that's not to be confused with being selfish. Looking after self is very important and very different to being selfish. If we jump into the resilient core in a little bit more detail, we can just give a couple of other examples of what that will mean. So when we talk about a purpose, it is having these meaningful goals. Yeah, it's the fact that we feel valued, not just by others, but by ourselves. That we are able to live in a purposeful way, so things that are fulfilling and meaningful to us. And some of the examples of that are people that have some clear priorities, some clear goals, a sense of direction that they can then enact. And again, when people can really think and act upon what is really important to them in life and can imagine living a fulfilling life, they're much better able to capture that and act on that. When we talk about authenticity, this is being able to be honest and understand our true self. So it's how we're able to make these choiceful decisions based upon our true self. Now that can be things like being really confident to speak up, to express our own ideas, even if there's a risk associated to that. And it's our ability, when it's important to us, it's aligned with our values, with our beliefs, to continue, even if there is some form of opposition. And when you're authentic, you're able to determine your own direction in life. So what is important to you rather than living a life that you believe others would like you to live. So again, it's being really strong in terms of your values and your beliefs around that, rather than being something that you don't want to be. When we live with equanimity and some form of balance, then this is really about how we can understand and act on levels of choices that we might have not have considered before. It's how we can reframe what's happened to us in a positive and a generative way, rather than in a negative way, in a blaming way, in a way that we want to avoid things. And again, it's the ability to recognize when we're out of balance and what are the strategies that we can take to recenter that. And we will cover all of this when we help people develop their resilience. It's important to recognize the power of humor. So how humor can really help us get some form of balance. It can help us to diffuse and reset our views of situations. And then we can act in a way that is really choiceful. And choice is a really powerful part of resilience, recognizing that we have a choice and being confident and able to act upon those choices. Self-reliance. Again, very timely at the moment. So we've seen society, countries, communities and individuals being really challenged in many ways as a consequence of COVID. So again, being able to rely on people and things in different ways is part of this. And self-reliance, again, is not about doing it all yourself. It's how you really understand your own skills and capabilities, how you can utilize those, but also the skills and capabilities of others. It's about having a belief system that is generative and positive for you. So it's about removing some of the self-limiting beliefs. I can't, I won't be able to, I'll fail, I've not been able to do this before. It's really increasing that self-confidence, and self-confidence in a way, for example, that says you're comfortable to put your hand up and say, I need some help. It really is about being able to access resources that you can use in a positive way. Perseverance, again, it's around understanding and acting. So this focus on what's meaningful to us, to understand what it is that can derail us and develop positive responses to those distractions and those derailing aspects, how we can really take meaningful action in a sustainable way, and how we can even view things as much more than a binary succeed-fail outcome, and how we can build these generative learning behaviours on top of this to be really engaged in what we're doing. Now, resilience doesn't just happen on its own. So the resilience core is underpinned by what we call the resilience supports. And we have 5 aspects in that, and it's more than just head-led and being mental. So we look at it from a mind, from a spirit, from a soul point of view, from a body point of view. So we look at it physically, mentally, and emotionally. And 5 aspects. So how we manage stress, our healthy lifestyle. Do we have some practices around that? How are we connecting to others? Are we living in some form of balance in our life? And finally, are we able to stay engaged in life? So just to break them down, what we mean by stress management. So stress is around our inability to cope with the environment or situation that we're currently in. And stress can build, so we need to let off steam. So it can be things like stress busting activities, very personal, they vary. It can be music, it can be painting, time with the family, it could be anything. Sleep is a key factor in how we manage our stress, the ability to detox our brain, and both the quality and the quantity are important around this. This is often an area that we work with individuals on and teams on, so we run things like sleep workshops. How we can avoid things in our control that may cause us stress, so how we can prepare and practice for things. Again, we come back to asking for help, how we can accept the situation that we're in, and how we can exercise those muscles around problem solving and creativity. And this can make a real difference when we manage our stress. It can strengthen our immune system, which in turn can reduce the risk of illness and disease. And again, we live in an environment that isn't just around COVID. Other diseases are available, and when we're getting run down by the situation that we may feel we're in, that can erode our immune system. When we're under less stress, that can improve the quality of sleep, which again is very virtuous. That if we sleep well, that generally aids our recovery at a mental level. It helps us at an emotional level, and it helps us as a physical level. When we manage our stress and we feel more relaxed, we're able to enjoy the things that matter, which in turn can help us increase our energy, our engagement and enthusiasm for the things that we're focusing on. That may be work, it may be family, it may be other aspects of our life. And then finally, when we're not thinking in a stressful state, because when we're under stress, through evolution, what happens is oxygen moves towards the muscles that we feel are needed. So the larger muscles, the legs, the arms, this is about the fight or flight type response. Whereas in the head, that's not considered important through evolution when you had to run away from things or you had to fight things. So that's why we can often feel lightheaded when we're in a stressful situation. If we can restore that, then we can reoxygenate the brain, and then we can start to solve problems. In terms of healthy lifestyle choices, this at a time when we really live in such a sedentary lifestyle, it's really easy to slip into less than healthy behaviours. Again, under COVID, mobility is a great example. Being sat at home on Zoom calls, on Teams calls, and not moving around during the day or for many parts of the day. So again, how are we living? So it's about our rest and recuperation. So are we resting appropriately? Are we just working? And again, it's another topic that we look on in terms of how we manage boundaries. Are we taking some form of relaxation and recreation? Are we exercising? So, advice is we should be walking for at least 30 minutes a day. If we can do that, it will significantly reduce the chance of dying prematurely. We should get around 3 hours and 20 minutes of exercise a week. So again, if you've got a desk-based job, if you're at home, try and get up every 50 minutes and do something physical, get up and move. It can not just help you physically, it can help you mentally and emotionally to change your state. Also around getting a balanced diet. And again, at this time, when we're restricted in so many ways, food can be a real form of pleasure. It can be a real response to trying to pick ourselves up from how we're feeling, and maybe that's not as healthy as it could be. So again, when we've got a healthy lifestyle, it makes a difference because we feel better about ourselves. It can increase our confidence. It can help reduce the stress, some of the things we covered before, which in turn can increase our physical well-being. It can reduce the risk of illness, so we can live a much better life, a much longer life. But it also improves our mental and emotional well-being. And finally, it helps us feel like we're in control. And if you think about the current environment where lots of control has been moved away, our freedom over movement, our freedom of what we can do, the fact that trying to do things spontaneously is less of an option now than it used to be. There are still aspects that we feel like we want to control. And when again, our healthy lifestyles is definitely something that is in our gift to control. Connecting to others is really important. One of the reasons that Homo sapien man survived over Neanderthal man was our ability to socialize, our ability, for example, to gossip. Don't go near the watering hole, there's a tiger there, it's dangerous. So the social structures are really important to us. And a number of things that we can do to help on that, to strengthen the connection. So, spending time with the people that enhance us. So rather than the people that drain our mood or our emotion, the fun sponges, the mood hoovers, how are we able to make time for the relationships that matter? Even if we've got to do that in a socially distanced way, are we spending time with the people that matter? Are we listening to them and listening to them with all of our senses, not just with our ears? Are we telling them how we value them? Are we considering how we value ourselves and the things that we do? So are we reflecting on the things that really make a difference to us and the things that make us feel good? And are we prioritizing those things? Are we really spending time thinking about being our best self, or are we just existing? And why does it make a difference? Well, connecting to others helps our physical health and well-being, which strengthens our immune system. And I know in the COVID world, we've been told we've got to physically distance, or social distancing, which in my opinion is a terrible term. We want to connect whilst physically distancing. But when we connect with others, it strengthens our immune system. When we connect with people, it lowers the risk of depression and anxiety. So people that have more connections, are connected more deeply with people, have a much greater perspective. They also feel a greater sense of support. And connection with that goes two ways. So our ability to support and encourage others is both the gift and the reward. So again, we know that in helping other people, that can improve the resilience of the caregiver. And finally, connected people have a real sense of belonging. And at a time, again, when it's really easy to feel isolated, we're not working in the office environment, we're not connecting with people in the same volume or ways that we used to. And many people can find that they're working from home on their own as well, so they're not physically interacting with other people. Time we do spend on our connections, on expressing how we feel, how we value people, really helps with this sense of belonging. Now, a balanced point of view is really around connecting and engaging with what we are doing. So it's our ability to be really present when we're present. So whilst we might physically be there, there are times when we're emotionally or mentally elsewhere. So it's our ability to tune in with what we're doing. Balance is also about being proactive. So how we schedule and make time for things rather than just react to everything, and how we're able to make time for the things and the people that matter. An example when we're not in balance is we can create these myths. I don't have time for this. The reality is you're choosing to prioritize something else. So again, if we spend the time on what's important to us, do we then act upon that and prioritize what's important to us? It's the ability to really, yes, we need to work hard and there are lots of demands, but can we play hard? Can we enjoy life? And I'll drop the L-bomb in, the ability to love deeply. Yeah, so our ability to do things that really matter, to unleash our creativity, to really engage with life, to do the fun things, and enjoy that. And again, why does this make a difference? Well, people that are in balance feel under less pressure because they're able to exert more choice and control. It reduces the feeling of being pulled around in several directions at once. It helps us feel calm. It helps us feel centered, to feel clear-headed, which in turn helps giving us a greater motivation for the areas in life that are important to us. We can really enjoy life rather than feeling like we're just being dragged along, rather than feeling like we're just existing. And when we talk about engagement, this is around how we can connect with what it is that matters to us. That might be, those people that matter. It might be those things that matter. It's our ability to remove some of the negative associations we have with that. So rather than fearing failure, feeling embarrassment or feeling rejection, it's our ability to take this on in an exploratory way, in an optimistic way, because again, if we take a chance, we're infinitely more likely to succeed than if we don't try. It's choosing to spend time around the things that are really important. So it's things like not just putting off the bucket list, or not even just putting things onto our bucket list and saving everything for later. When I have time, when I retire, when I've got my promotion, when I've finished this, or when I've done that. It's our ability to engage in life and do those things in the now, rather than being a prisoner to things that may not happen in the future. So some of the things that you can do just to lead a more engaged life: never let a day pass without spending time with the people that you love, and do something that stirs your senses, something that really moves you in whatever form. And then start to make plans. And I know that's challenging in a COVID environment, but thinking about what is it that you can do? What is it that you can look forward to? What can you commit to? What can you make real? And again, why that makes a difference? Well, when we're engaged, we really appreciate what we have rather than what we haven't got. And this is a great time in the current environment to really note what we're appreciative of. I practice gratitude every morning. I just spend a couple of minutes thinking about what it is that I've got that I'm truly grateful for. I'm really blessed in terms of the environment I'm in. When we're engaged, we're not imprisoned in the past or the future. So in terms of regret of things that we may have done, or fear of things that may not even happen, we call it praying for things that we don't want. And then when we're able to do that, and we're able to live in the now, we're open to more opportunities, to more ideas and experiences, a real growth mindset. And also we can feel brave, ideally fearless. So thinking about what we're going to gain rather than concerned about what we could lose all the time. And we're finally able to really absorb and live life. So there's a saying that you only live once. I believe that's not true. I think we live every day. And the question is, are we living every day? Or are we just existing? Now, jumping briefly into our approach on this, the important thing we have as a principle is this is about providing resources for individuals, for teams, to help them develop. And the aim is not that bringing resilience in as a development support introduces more stress and lowers resilience on people just by virtue of more workload. So we try and ensure that it fits around the demands that people have. We don't force any of the participants to do things. It's purely elective. We don't treat people all the same. So there's a lot of choice and ownership within the individuals. And we have a 4-stage program that we run through. So we start by just an intro explaining what is resilience. So an expanded version of this, introducing the topic, taking any questions that people have, because this is a change exercise. So this isn't about judging whether people are resilient or not. It's equipping them to understand resilience at this stage. And then we start to measure it. So we use the True Resilience Scale, the True Resilience Support. This is the data from 3 million people in 150 countries in the form of a confidential survey, and I'll explain a bit more of that in detail. We then collect the results and we'll analyse that to look for themes at a team level as well. And then at stage 3, we start to develop this. So we'll go through some group exercises for some of the common themes. So this can be things like, how do you manage your boundaries? How are you managing your stress at the moment? How are you living healthy lifestyles? It could be a sleep workshop. We also offer one-to-one coaching sessions, so some speed coaching sessions around resilience, and they're purely elective. Typically around 30% of people take up the offer for that. And we also point people towards any other measures that the organisation might have in place, or any other interventions that we can offer on that. So we do things like biometric testing of heart rate variability, but many organisations also have some really good programs in place that we can just steer people towards. And then finally, we help people remeasure. The aim of that is you're able to calibrate your own resilience capacity and understand when it's not at the level you want it to be. You're able to access the resilience tools that we've made available to you or reminded you of that already existed, and you're then able to use those to increase your capacity. So again, the aim of our exercise is to help you calibrate. We don't promise that your resilience will immediately increase over our period, but what we do aim is that you understand your own resilience capacity far better, and you're much better equipped and more confident in your ability to get to your resilience, to the level that you need it to be. We typically run this through a 12-week program. So we start at the beginning with the intro and we finish at the end with a debrief and understanding where you could go next. Very briefly, I'll just explain how we measure this in terms of our survey and measurement tools. So we've got some online confidential surveys. So the individual is the only person that sees the results. We analyse them in an anonymised way as part of our research, but anybody that participates can feel very safe and comfortable that the only person that sees the results in terms of the report is them, and they're free to share that with whoever they want. And what happens at the end of the 10-minute survey is you'll immediately get a report. It's a personalised report that shows your current capacity. It shows how you compare to over 3 million other people. It contains a number of quick tips, and that's the sort of thing that you can take into your review at a one-to-one coaching session. And then we'll also play back to the team and to the sponsor the collective analysis. So this is the summary of the individual results. So how does resilience look for in terms of the people that form part of the project? Are there some common themes? In which case they're the sort of things that we'd run as workshops, as collective development opportunities. So that's what we provide there. And again, within the report, you'll get a series of topics on this. So you get a short definition of what that is. So that's a recap of some of the things I've discussed today. The individual will see their responses, they'll see their score and how that compares to the average. And then a few quick tips on how you can strengthen that capacity and things to watch out for that might diminish your capacity. So again, this is a great little tool for people to help understand and calibrate their own resilience, as well as some immediate information to act upon that we can build on with the coaching sessions, and we can build on with the collective workshop exercises as well. So as a summary, resilience is a capacity, it's not a capability, and it's a capacity that we can manage in a whole system approach. So again, when we talk about mentally, emotionally and physically, and it's not just about surviving, it's our ability to thrive. And this makes a difference because the people that can really manage this capacity are really strong in their personal and professional performance. What do we mean by personal performance? Well, it's the ability to engage and enjoy life much more. It's the ability to focus on the things that matter to us, be that individually, be that in a personal capacity, be that in a work capacity. So again, resilience is really around not just surviving, it's around thriving. And again, if you want to know any more details about that and our work, then the contact details will be included in that, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching this show.